weird phantom kangaroos in North America. Is there a rare species of kangaroo living in the dark corners of North America? Phantom species are creatures reported to exist far out from their home ranges. Everybody knows about kangaroos, these hippity-hoppity things that carry their kids around in their pockets. They're supposed to live in Australia, so why are people increasingly spotting them in North America? Dubbed phantom or errant kangaroos, and these elusive marsupials have been documented around the United States for over 100 years. What's going on with these out-of-the-place animals? And can the sightings really be believed? With sprawling fields and farms, it appears that rural America would be a great habitat for kangaroos, especially the southwestern states that may closely resemble their outback territory in the wild. Large non-indigenous animals have certainly gained a foothold in Australia, from camels to pigs and even possible big cats. Is it possible the land down under may be exporting some critters of their own? It seems like a stretch, but it's not as bonkers as it might at first sound. Kangaroos and other marsupials all evolved from a common ancestor, and in fact, there are marsupials in the Americas today. Is it then unreasonable to think a species of kangaroo may have evolved in the Americas? And could these creatures maintain a small, obscure population out of the sight of humans? Some cryptozoologists think the phantom kangaroos may be a new animal yet undiscovered by science. Wherever they came from, people have claimed sightings of cryptid kangaroos in America for decades. Errant kangaroos have been spotted in Americas dating back to 1899, from Minnesota to California to New Jersey to North Carolina. There are a few grainy pictures floating around, and even some police reports, but no animals living or dead have ever been recovered. Of course, the most popular explanation for sightings of wild kangaroos in North America is mistaken identity. Deer run rampant in many areas of the country, and they are of similar size. Deer do bear a vague resemblance to kangaroos from the neck up, so if they're in tall grass. Deers also are capable of rearing up on their hind legs for short periods of time, although to see one do so is rare. Whitetail jumps and bound quite capably, but of course they don't hop on their hind legs, and one would think it would be easy to spot the difference. Otherwise, there are a few American animals we can logically confuse with a kangaroo. As large marsupials, they are fairly unique in the world and have no equivalent in North America. So is it possible the Australian kangaroos have somehow managed to gain a foothold in America? Another possible cause of the sightings is Australian kangaroos have escaped from zoos or private properties. There are several animal sanctuaries around the United States housing kangaroos, numerous zoos, and an unknown number of unlicensed owners. If these animals had escaped from private citizens who had owned them illegally, it's not likely they would be reported. Is it possible some of these animals have established a breeding population over the years? One interesting explanation for phantom kangaroos is that they represent a species of rare marsupials not yet classified by science. The North American kangaroo, while biologically plausible, is still a stretch. It's tough to imagine an animal that thrives in fields elsewhere in the world would go undetected for so long in America. Is it even harder to imagine one never getting shot by a hunter? We could loosely argue that Bigfoot is an intelligent primate or a human ancestor and therefore able to somehow evade hunters. But that certainly isn't true for the marsupials. There are marsupials in the Americas, most notably South America. North America has the possum, but south of Isthmus of Panama, there are nearly 100 species of marsupials, including 60 species of possum. In fact, Australian marsupials originated in South America many millions of years ago, when Australia, South America, and Antarctica were connected. These days, there are tremendous differences between the American and Australian marsupials. That is, except for an animal called the Monito del Monte. Strangely, this tiny critter shares more genetic similarities to the Australian marsupials than its American cousins. is apparently the only extant member of the family of marsupials that went on to colonize Australia. What does this mean for the American kangaroos? Obviously, this tiny animal would be mistaken for a kangaroo if it did somehow make its way to North America. It means a possibility exists for convergent evolution. This is when a distant ancestor evolved similar traits despite their complete separation. So if nature decides this model worked in Australia, might nature decide the same type of creature could evolve in America? Unfortunately, there is another side to the phantom kangaroo sightings that causes the whole idea to take an even more ridiculous turn. Ghostly kangaroos, creatures that attack people and feed on livestock and beasts that appear to be crossbred creatures, are reported alongside the reports of normal kangaroos. As though it's not interesting enough for a population of wild kangaroos to live in North America, they sometimes get mixed up with less realistic cryptids such as devil monkeys, chupacabras, and the Jersey Devil. For serious cryptozoologists, it's important to separate the two types of sightings, and perhaps this strangeness can explain the lack of interest in the North American kangaroo by the general public. It's just too darn weird. Cryptid kangaroo deserves more than a passing glance when it comes to research and public interest. Unfortunately, there are far more interesting legendary animals loose in the Americas that command attention, and it's easy to imagine that the first capture of the North American kangaroo could stun the world and turn science on its ear. So, could there be a population of errant kangaroos living in North America? Why not? If there's a big hairy hominid with giant feet running around, why not a cryptid kangaroo as well? Or there could be a much more mundane explanation. We see cases where errant big cat populations appear to have gained foothold in places like the United Kingdom and Australia. See our video on alien big cats. Generally, these animals are assumed to have escaped from private owners, perhaps over decades, and now established a breeding population in the wild. Whether there are escaped pets or an undiscovered species, it's fascinating to think the kangaroos might exist so far from home. Reports of sightings will no doubt continue, and perhaps someday the North American kangaroo will be a subject more for biologists than for cryptozoologists. Thank you.